thank you for joining us at the CPF Maximizing Your Money webinar. My name is Joanne and I'll be moderating today's conversation. What you have just heard is the CPF Let's Talk podcast that you can find on Spotify. Now, today the spotlight will be on how we are going to optimize your CPF savings to achieve your financial goals and to grow your savings. Over the years, our topic on maximizing your money has been very popular in all the working adults, as well as those where they're in life stage where it involves major financial decisions. But if you don't belong to any of this group, it's okay. I'm sure you'll also walk away with some tips on growing your savings. So do stay tuned with us. And before we begin, I'd like to just run through some admin matters. Now, the chat function and the raise hand function has been disabled. So if you would like to send your questions, please do so through the Q&A tab. Gentle reminder not to share your personal details or your personal particulars. If the video is not moving, you may leave and rejoin the session. And along the way, we'll be introducing some interactive polls, so do participate in them. Okay, so while we are very happy to have all of you today, and without further ado, let's start the session. So I would like to introduce our panel speakers that we have today. So first up, we have Ms. Sok Lin. She's our CPF Board Group Director from the Employer Collections and Enforcement Group. Sok Lin has been with us for more than 20 years.
That's right,
yes.
that's right.
And beside her, we have Paul, who is an MOE teacher and a CPF member, just like all of us. And thank you for taking time to join us today. So I think our audience would like to also learn a bit more about yourself. So maybe you can share a bit, with our audience. So maybe you can start with Sok Lin first.
Yeah, thanks, Joanne. And very good evening, everyone. My name is Sok Lin. I'm currently the Group Director of the Employers Collection and Enforcement Group. Prior to joining this group, I was actually involved in healthcare and retirement schemes. I'm happy to be here this evening. And also a little excited because this is my first time participating in a webinar.
How about you, Paul?
Yes, it's also my first time participating, so I'm really nervous. But anyway, brief introduction about myself. I'm a father of 2 young kids. I'm a teacher for about 11 years. Yeah, that's my first job. Yeah, so I think tonight should be quite enriching, I hope, from what we have shared with each other prior to this sharing with all of you.
Thank you, thank you. So we have a lot of grounds to cover today, and before we delve into all the financial thought, I thought it would be interesting for our audience to find out, when did you start your financial planning, and actually what motivated you to start your financial planning? Yeah, so maybe Paul, you can share with us first.
Okay, sure. So actually, back in my university days, I just stumbled upon a part-time job. Actually, it was an insurance company. So I think it was a blessing in disguise back then because as a young adult, I think I felt that insurance was something I did not want to be part of. But now that I was on the other side, I gained a better understanding of insurance and the importance of it first. But being in my early 20s back then, I still did not know how to invest, so I was more of a saver still. But I only started really seriously investing, I think when I hit 30 years old, because that's when there were a lot of avenues for us to explore, to invest instead of the traditional brokerages. Yeah, so I think what inspires me, because I don't think I would want to work until my 60s and 70s, so yeah, I think the retirement plan has to start as soon as possible. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How about Sok Lin?
Right. For myself, I think I started in my mid-30s, slightly later than Paul. Right. So at that time, I have some savings and also have purchased some insurance policies for myself, but nothing very specific on retirement. It was also at that time that I was actually rotated to work on CPF Life, one of our retirement schemes. Right. And part of my job exposed me to a lot of numbers, among them the mortality rates and also the life expectancy rate. So back then, that was like more than 10 years ago, Singapore was already one of the fastest aging nation, right? And at age 65, half of our population will actually live beyond the age of 85, and 1/3 will actually goes to live beyond the age of 90. Right? The problem is we do not know whether you belong to the 1/3 or the 2/3.
Yep.
Right? So looking at all these numbers really got me thinking very, very hard about my own retirement. Right? Specifically, the importance of having a lifelong income, and also how I could actually grow my retirement savings so that I could enjoy a higher CPF Life monthly payout when I eventually retire. Okay. On hindsight, looking back, I thought I started a little late. If I have a chance to turn back the clock, I think I would have started, planning from the very first day I started work.
Yeah, I think it's a useful tip to start planning from the first day you start.
That's right.
Because really then you have a lot of runway and you can really leverage the compound interest. And so for our online audience who have already started savings, very good, give yourself a pat on the back. And if you have not, it's not too late to start today as well. Yeah, never too late, better late than never. Yeah, so at this point, I think I would just like to pull out a poll, and let's just run through the poll that you will see on screen. And the poll question is, how much do you think you will need every month in retirement? Okay, so is it below 1,000, 1,001 to 2,000, or above 2,000? Now, as we collect the responses, I will also post these questions to our guest speakers. Yeah, so for Lynn and Paul, what would be your options to this poll question?
Perhaps slightly more than 2,000 for me.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely more than 2,000.
More than 2,000 for
definitely.
you as well.
For comfortable retirement, I guess. Yeah, it goes beyond the basic daily expenses. I think more than 2,000.
Okay, right. Okay, so we are getting the responses in. I think we can close the poll in another 3 seconds. So if you have not keyed in your responses, now is the time to do so. So maybe in another 3, 2, and 1. So shall we look at the poll response? Okay, so we have 66% of our online audience who selected above 2,000, just like the two of you, right? And we have another 32% who actually opted for 1,001 to 2,000, and 2% who opted below 1,000. Yes, so I think it's okay in the sense that there's no right or wrong answer. In fact, it really depends on what is the retirement lifestyle that you want to lead out. Every one of us would have a different response to this question. Yeah. So now that you have chosen above 2,000, I'm very interested to know what is the retirement lifestyle that you actually envision with above 2,000.
Right. So for me, it was never about lying in the beach, that kind of retirement lifestyle, right? So I think I'm guided by 2H, right? The first H is being healthy, and the other H is being happy.
Okay.
So healthy and happy physically, emotionally, mentally, and most importantly, I think it's also financially, right? And how I would categorize this is using this 3 basic elements. One, I think I would want to be debt-free, which means no more housing loan in my retirement years or any other financial obligation. So I think that's important to me. 2 is having a steady stream of monthly income, and that's regardless whether I choose to continue to work or not. And 3, I think, is the freedom to do things that I enjoy doing. So I love traveling, so I do hope that in my retirement years, I'll get to do quite a bit of traveling. I would also really like to pick up my music lessons again, something that was not completed during my school days, and also hope to learn something new altogether. Yeah, if that's possible. Yeah.
Okay, it's interesting. I never knew you were into music. Now I know.
Okay. Yeah, but didn't pursue it very much. Yeah.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah, so I love to travel too. I think my wife loves to travel also. So yes, some expenses for traveling would be nice. But I think more importantly, from the family point of view, is not to rely on my children in our old age. Let them live their own lives. So by only getting a regular stream of passive income, if I may put it that way, or some sort of income stream that I don't have to depend on them, then I think I've done them justice. Yeah. So holiday, yeah, the frivolous one, the frivolous side of it, and then family-wise, yeah, not to depend on that, to be what's the word, self-reliant. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, self-reliant. All right, 2H from Sotlin and self-reliance from Paul. Yeah. Okay. So I like it. That's very clear. Both of you really know what is the retirement lifestyle that you are looking at, and you had a figure in mind. And I'm sure that's where, you know, when you have the end in mind, you can work towards it. You know, whether it's charting out the plan, you know, drawing it up. That's how you get your retirement game plan. And I think maybe for our online audience, because the end in mind will be different for them as well, but they would be interested to know, you know, how to get there, you know, how to go about, you know, saving up for their retirement, and where do they get started? Yeah. So do you have any tips on that?
Okay, I would describe myself actually as a saver, and for this I have to thank my parents. I think they cultivated these saving habits in me when I was young. But even with this saver mindset, it's not always easy, right? Because especially when you first start joining the workforce, right? There's a lot of competing demands for your paycheck, right? You'll be thinking about your next holiday, right? The next, outing with your friends, and then there's a house that you want to buy, and perhaps even the car. So it's not easy, right? So what I did was to actually have different buckets of savings. And for my retirement savings, I actually made the CPF special account as my main retirement bucket. And I do so by actually doing a regular cash top up into my special account.
Okay. Right. How
Yeah,
about Paul?
so for me also, I think when I first stumbled upon this hack, so to speak, about leveraging on CPF to form the bedrock of your whole retirement income stream. Few years ago, I started off by just contributing in small amounts, topping up my wife's special account first, because we have not collected our house keys back then. So just small amounts transfer from OA to SA first. But once we settled our house and we had a better idea of how much we could actually transfer over to the SA, we just transfer over without thinking too much. I think people hesitate to click the transfer button on the CPF website or the online app because it's an irreversible process. Yeah. So, but I think it was one of the best decisions that I made lah. Yeah, looking back. So why so? Because achieving this full retirement sum actually allows me, is part of the whole retirement plan, a small picture of it. So later we can go into details about the rest of the plan. So this part of this plan is to draw out any excess of full retirement sum when we hit 55. So this would be one of the buckets, like Soklin mentioned just now, so for myself, yeah, when we turn 55.
Yeah, maybe I just add on to what Paul has mentioned just now. So topping up to your special account or doing a transfer is a very, very powerful tool to grow your retirement savings that will enable you to enjoy a higher CPF life payout when you eventually retire. Right. So for those who are just starting out, you may find it a bit challenging, right, to make this contribution. So for a start, I think it need not be a large amount.
Yes.
Right, so you can start off with an amount that you're comfortable with, right? But the key is you have to do it early, and you have to do it regularly to actually enjoy the benefits of the compounding interest, right? So if there's a tip that I could share, I think is you can always start small, but remember to act fast.
Yes, that's a good reminder. So I'm very glad that you all mentioned CPF, because really CPF forms the foundation in our retirement planning. So maybe we will just take the next few minutes to run through some of slides on CPF so that we can also just pull out the slides, and let's look at CPF interest rate. Yes. So for members below age 55, they will actually be able to earn up to 3.5% interest rate per annum for your OA and up to 5% interest rate per annum for your SA and your MA. Okay, so there is an extra 1% interest, all right, on the first 60,000 of your combined CPF balances, capped at 20,000 of your OA. For members who are age 55 and above, you will have one more account, which is called the retirement account. All right. So for members age 55 and above, they will actually earn up to 2% interest, all right, on the first 30,000 of the combined CPF balances, and another 1%, up to 1% interest on the next 30,000 of the combined CPF balances. So in fact, for members 55 and above, they do get to earn an extra up to 2% of the interest, and this is actually meant to boost their retirement savings. Okay, so we talk about ways that we can optimize our CPF savings, and there are 3 ways you can do so. First, you can top up your special account with cash and earn tax relief at the same time. Second, you can transfer your ordinary account savings to your special or your retirement account savings to earn more interest. Third, you can voluntarily top up all 3 accounts to save more. So we'll go through each of these 3 steps in greater details. Okay, so first of all, you can grow your retirement savings, and enjoy the CPF interest rate so that it translates into higher monthly payouts when you retire. So for members aged below 55, you can do top up to the prevailing FRS full retirement sum, which is 192,000. And for members aged 55 and above, you can do cash top up to the prevailing ERS, which is 288,000. Now you just need to take note that all these top-ups, that you are meant to grow your retirement savings, so they can only be used to fund your monthly payouts in your retirement. You cannot make a full lump sum withdrawal for it. Okay, so when you do cash top-up, you do get to enjoy tax relief, and the maximum tax relief that you can enjoy is up to 16,000, up to 8,000 when you do your own top-up for yourself, and another 8,000 when you do cash top-up to help your loved ones to build up their retirement savings. So it can be to their SA special account or their retirement account if they are more than 55 years old. And we talk a bit, in fact, we'll talk a lot about small and regular cash top-up. So it is really advisable to start making cash top-up. And we understand that, when we talk about top-up, it may not be really a lump sum. You can actually make a small amount, start off at a regular basis. So if you look at this example on the slide, even if you have started $50 per month, all right, in 20 years' time, that amount actually grows to more than 18,000. All right, so that's the power of the compound interest. And we talk about transferring your OA savings. That is something you can do, but there are some things that you need to take note. First, there is no tax relief when you transfer your excess savings to your special account or your retirement account. And as Paul had mentioned just now, such transfers are irreversible. So do consider carefully before you make the transfer. And similarly, you can transfer your excess savings to your loved one's special account or retirement account to help them to boost their CPF savings. Okay, next is you can do a voluntary top-up to all your 3 accounts. The top-up amount will be subject to the CPF annual limit of 37,740. And when you do this top-up, it will be allocated to your OA, SA, and MA based on the CPF allocation rates based on the members, that means your age. And this top-up also does not attract tax relief. Okay, so I think now we can talk a bit about tax, because we mentioned a bit about tax relief, and I do know that for 2 guest speakers, you also contribute SRS. Yeah, so do you do that to, get tax relief at the same time, or actually is merely or mostly to build up your retirement savings plans?
Okay, so actually, I opened an account with just $1 first to lock in the retirement age when it was 62. Now it's 63.
Yep.
Yeah, so. But after that, I realized that I could also put some money in there for tax relief, even though it's not really a huge amount, but still better than nothing. But also, I don't leave the money inside the SRS because it earns very meager interest. So I just make use of the SRS monies inside back then to purchase those policies through insurance companies, or you know, I think they still have that nowadays. Yeah, but now also I'm exploring using it to invest through robo-advisors. Yeah, so I mean, any interest is definitely better than 0.05% if I'm not wrong in SRS. Yeah, yeah. So yep, that's also one of the buckets in the entire grand plan. Yeah.
Right. So I do contribute to SRS as well. Like you say, mainly to enjoy the tax relief, right? But our viewers may wish to note that actually contribution to SRS is actually not refundable. So any early withdrawals will be subject to penalty, and I think the tax relief will be taken away as well. So I think yeah, do consider that when you are making a SRS contribution.
Okay, right. Useful tips. So I think we have talked about optimizing our CPF savings, talk a bit about our retirement plans, retirement lifestyle. So I'd just like to at this point pull out the second poll that we have for today. All right, and this poll is actually helps to put things into perspective. Like I would say, yeah. So this poll is about how long do you think you will live until? Is it 70 to 79, 80 to 89? Beyond 90, or you have the option to choose don't know or others. Yeah. So I think since we're doing it as the second poll, probably the response, the response coming in. The response is coming in very fast. So maybe maybe it's something more intuitive, like whether you think it is 80 to 89 or whether it's 90. So we have, all right, about 70% who have already participated in the poll response. Maybe we can just wait for another few more seconds before we close the poll so that we can have as many online audience joining us in the poll as possible. Yeah, so I won't ask the guest speaker for your response in this case. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm very curious to know,
what's the percentage?
Yeah, what's the percentage?
Would you like to make a guess?
I think, yeah, most people will probably look at, their parents, grandparents and make a guess, right? But maybe, I don't know, 80 to 89?
Okay. Right, 80 to 89. All right, I'll tell you the answer later.
Okay.
So as not to influence the responses. Yeah. Okay, so I think maybe we can just close the poll in another 5 seconds. So I hope the online audience managed to put in your response. Okay, so this is on about how long do you think you will live until. Your responses are anonymous, right? So maybe we can close in another 3 seconds, right? 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's look at the poll response. Okay, we have 44% of the respondents who selected 80 to 89 years old. Yes, that's leading. And next, 25% selected don't know or others. 17% selected 70 to 79 years old. And 14% who selected beyond 90 years old. Yes. So actually it's really, nobody knows when we will pass away. Yeah. And I think Solin, you're right to say that sometimes the way we look at this question depends on how we view our parents, grandparents and all that. But I think the thing is, with advancement in technology and healthcare, perhaps the way of looking at it this way may not be accurate in terms of predicting anymore. Yeah, actually the likelihood of us living longer than our parents or our grandparents is going to be so much higher. Yeah, so let's look at some stats that we have here. So, okay, so let's pull it up. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so let's look at the stats here that we have. So in 2009, you will see that actually the average life expectancy for male is actually 79 years old. And for female, it's 84 years old. 10 years on, in 2019, actually it has increased for the male to 81 years old and for the female to 86 years old. So in general, yeah, female live longer than men, right? And the average life expectancy have increased, across both the male and female. Yeah, so this brings in this component on uncertainty, in fact, So if you look at this, how long our savings can last then? If you spend too much, then you might not have enough if you live longer. But if you spend too little, then you're depriving yourself from enjoying your savings, After all the years of savings, I'm sure you would like, to enjoy your retirement monies in that sense, yeah. So talking about this uncertainty, bringing back to our guest speakers here, how do you, overcome such uncertainties and, factor that into your retirement game plan? Yeah.
So I agree with the most recent slide. It says if I spend too little, I'm depriving myself. So I think it's important, firstly, to strike a balance. We don't want to, for the sake of retirement, because I can understand where some people are also coming from when they say, what for, they say YOLO, you only live once. But precisely, you only live once. That is why you should plan out properly, not push everything back. Yeah, so my retirement plan actually covers our, of course, CPF Life is ultimately the main thing to fall back on, because it really covers you for life. You don't know when you will go. Yes, but of course before that also, if I can, it's a far dream, not really far, I'm working towards it, is to, of course, semi-retire by mid-40s. Improbable, maybe, impossible, not so. Yes, but to fully retire by 55, I think that's my main aim, because like I said earlier on at the start of today, my plan is to, part of the plan is to withdraw some money, either the interest or the principal, from the SA or the OA that's remaining inside my entire CPF account. And also by why mid-40s to 55? Because I've also probably mostly paid up all my kids' endowment plans, my own plans, or whatever other all those insurance things by my mid-40s, and my housing loan, which is the main debt, would be cleared by 55. And this is one of the deliberate decisions that I actually took when we signed and we collected our keys. I told my wife we must pay off by 55. I'm not going to pay until I'm 60 or 65. So I think, yep. I hope I answered the question.
Yes. Let's hear from Seok Ling, your
Yeah,
perspective.
I think I can't agree more with Paul about how CPF Life will also be the main decumulation tool for me, where I will be receiving where my monthly payout will be coming from, right? Because CPF Life is an annuity scheme, and will ensure that you'll never outlive your retirement savings. And for CPF Life, there are actually different plans available to meet different needs.
Yeah. Okay, so Seok Ling mentioned about CPF Life. Yes, so I think it's timely for us to also go through some slides on CPF Life. Yeah, I think it's useful to understand, how the CPF scheme works. So CPF Life, yes, is a national longevity insurance annuity scheme that provides you monthly payout no matter how long you live. So this actually helps in overcoming the uncertainties that we talk about, because none of us would know when we would pass away, how much money we would need in that sense. So enjoy a peace of mind in retirement when you have CPF Life. And looking at this slide, so at age 55, you set aside your retirement sum. And 10 years later at 65, so long as you have at least 60,000 in your retirement savings, you will automatically be placed on CPF Life. So at this point, you can start your payout anytime between age 65 to 70. And the maximum that you can defer your payout is actually age 70. So if you still do not start your payout by age 70 and you did not select a plan, you will automatically be placed on the CPF Life Standard Plan. Right? So the whole concept of this is you will be able to get payouts even if you have already fully drawn down from your CPF account balances. So it does pay you for no matter how long you live. So don't worry about outliving your savings, your own savings when you are on CPF Life. Yeah. Okay, so but this is one aspect, and in financial planning, there's many aspects, right? So in terms of your retirement, do you have any other strategies? You know, I hear you all talk a bit about housing purchase and all that. So maybe in that area, would you have any other tips that you can share with our online audience?
Maybe I go first? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, because I just purchased a house few years back, so it's still fresh in my mind. Yeah, so of course, we paid for the down payment and everything, collected our keys when we were 30 years old. But prior to that also, of course, there's a selection process. And I think some guideline that I read somewhere was it should not exceed more than 5 times of your annual income or something like that. I mean, it really depends on how comfortable each person is when they are purchasing a house. But I think the key takeaway is to be prudent in your housing selection because number one, you don't want to overpay. When I say overpay means to say like when we work, we have inflow into our OA, assuming we're using CPF to pay for a house. But you don't want the outflow to be more than your inflow. Then every month you are just so-called losing money in a way. That is one, and the second one is of course you don't want to pay it for too long, you know, going into your 60s or even 70s. But then again, people may disagree. Audience may disagree also because for me, I'm not into the property game, so I'm not sure about property flipping and all these things. But for me, that's what I do. I be comfortable and just have a peace of mind. Yeah, knowing that I can pay up, it's affordable for me. Yeah, so I think that's for myself.
Yeah, so I agree that housing purchase is actually one big financial decisions in that sense. And so maybe for Paul, for you, right, when you had this idea of paying up early, not wanting to finance until age 65 and all that, how do you go about doing it? Because you know you had a family, and I think you also discussed with your wife. So I'm sure it takes quite a bit of time to get down to that decision. How do you actually go about doing it? Your wife was fully supportive. She also subscribed to this idea.
Yeah, actually, she just goes with me. She said, okay, she just trusts me with all the decisions. They say, okay, can. Yeah, but I'm thankful that she's not spendthrift also lah. I mean, she buys things when necessary for the kids, buy the toys, books, everything for the house. Yeah, so I think there is no hard and fast rule. Okay, you pay this, I pay this. I think it's just quite mutual. Let's keep it that way, wife. I think you're listening now.
Yeah, that's nice. I think it's important, especially when you have I mean, it changes when you're alone, and if you have a family and a partner to consider and discuss together. I'm sure you have convinced her lah with the benefits of doing this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's why I also tell her about achieving FRS first, and that's why I contribute to her instead of giving her cash. You know, sometimes that's your ang pao. Yeah, sometimes that was back then. Yeah, now a bit cash strapped.
Yeah. So you are already helping her to boost her retirement savings, so that both of you will, in a way, be ready for retirement together.
Correct.
I think that's really nice.
Because she's not much of an investor, but this CPF thing I think is for everyone. So she's settled already in a way because she has already achieved FRS. Touch wood, assuming I leave one day early, all my CPF money goes to her. She has her own CPF to draw down from. I think my family is taken care of. Yeah.
Yeah, Paul has just made an open nomination.
Yeah. No secret.
Okay, so Lee, how about yourself?
Right, so quite similar to Paul, also two main considerations. For me, was the monthly installment and also the duration that I'll be taking to pay off the housing loan. So with these two considerations, then I actually decided to choose public housing instead of a private housing. So first, on the monthly installment, I think just now Paul also mentioned, it has to be an amount that you are comfortable with because it's going to be a long-term obligation, right? You don't finish paying your housing loan in a matter of 2 to 3 years. I mean, most people I know will take 10, 15 or even 20 years to complete the housing loan repayment. So for me, it has to be an amount that I'm comfortable with. Although for most of us, we would have used our CPF ordinary savings to service this housing loan. So that's what I did as well. When I first bought my house, I actually used my CPF ordinary savings to finance the monthly installment. Right? But I'm very conscious, right? The more I use for my housing purchase, my housing installment, the less I would have for my retirement.
Yes,
right?
it's the trade-off in that sense.
That's right. That's right. So after a few years, of using my CPF monies for my housing installment, when I'm more comfortable financially, I actually stopped using CPF altogether for my monthly installment and chose to service my housing loan using cash instead.
Yeah.
Right.
So did you put like a mental note that after a certain number of years you want to review the structure at which you pay for your housing, or is it something that is
Not something very exact, but I think every 2 to 3 years it's useful to actually review your needs and review your finances.
Yeah, and I think it also goes beyond housing purchases. I think in general, in terms of financial planning, it's always good to take stock year on year or every few years to just review, because your circumstances may change, your needs may change. So that's also something useful for our online audience to take note.
Right. So Paul also spoke about the duration of the loan. So that's something that I'm very conscious as well. And I actually set a personal goal, that I want to finish my housing repayment before the age of 50. So whenever I have some spare cash, actually what I'll do is actually to make a lump sum repayment. So the last few years, right, during COVID, it was actually a good opportunity because all your travel plans were put on hold, right? Then when you have that spare cash, I think make that lump sum repayment and it will shorten your repayment duration.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So we are going to talk about some of the things, summarize some of the things that we have mentioned just now. So in terms of making prudent housing choices, yes. So do ensure that the monthly installment for your property is not more than 25% of your gross monthly income, and if you can, do leave some savings in your OA as a safety net so that you can still earn, up to 3.5% of your interest. You can consider using part cash, part CPF to pay for your monthly installment. And just like what Seok Lim mentioned, you can actually be using CPF at the onset, and when your financial circumstances changes, you start to add in part cash, part CPF. Eventually, if you think you want to pay it fully by cash, that's also possible. Yeah, so this is something that you can consider. And some of our members have also been asking, so if I have already topped up to my full retirement sum, how then can I boost my CPF balances so that I can grow my savings even more? So one way that you can do it is actually through the voluntary housing refund. So if you buy a property with your CPF savings, you understand that you need to actually make a refund of your principal amount as well as the accrued interest when you sell your property. Now, so for voluntary housing refund, as the name suggests, is voluntary. So you do not have to sell your property, but you can refund any amount so long as it's capped at the what we call P plus I, principal amount plus the accrued interest, and it goes into your ordinary account. Okay, so this helps to reduce the amount that you need to refund to your OA subsequently when you sell the property. And the thing that you might want to take note is also, if you refund it back into your OA, this is actually the amount that you can use for your subsequent housing purchase as well. Yeah, so it goes back to your OA, you can still use it. Okay, so next slide we'll talk. Okay, so for this slide we will show you how you can check your voluntary housing refund amount. So if you are interested to do housing refund and you do not know what is the amount that you can refund up to a maximum, so you can log into CPF website under online services. We have a dashboard on home ownership and you can actually see the amount from there. Yeah. Okay, so back to our speakers here. We talk about uncertainties when we said that, you might outlive your savings, and the other part about life is of course about potential setbacks lah. Yeah, so we don't know when all these things will happen, and this may derail our retirement game plan as well. Yeah, so would you have any strategies in terms of being prepared for all these unexpected setbacks?
Right. So we spoke a bit about people living longer. So as we grow older, I think we are more prone to illness. More episodes of falling ill that require medical treatment, and which may result in huge hospital bills. Right. So thankfully for us, I think in Singapore here we have a MediShield Life. Yeah. So MediShield Life is designed, to protect us from these large hospital bills, and it covers hospital bills in class B2C class ward. Right. So I think many would want to know whether they should actually upgrade, their MediShield cover into an integrated shield plan covers. So I think there are two key considerations, right? One is of course the ward that you'll be staying in, right? If you are hospitalized, right? If you are going to stay in a B2C class ward, then actually MediShield Life is sufficient to cover the cost, right? But if you wish to stay in a B1A or even a private hospital, then MediShield Life will not be sufficient, and you may consider upgrading into an integrated shield plan. Okay. The second thing that you should consider is the premiums, right? Of course, integrated shield plans provide higher coverage. It comes at a higher cost as well, right? Yeah. So the premiums for MediShield could be paid from MediSave fully, right? But the premiums for integrated shield plans, while could also be paid from MediSave, but is subject to a withdrawal limit. So anything above the cap, you have to pay your premiums in cash. Okay, so for myself, I actually opted to be covered under integrated shield plans at this point in time, because I think at this point in time, if I do fall sick and require prolonged stay in the hospital, I would want to perhaps recover in a single person ward, okay. Right? But I would not rule out the possibility of downgrading into MediShield Life when I get older, because the premiums can be really, really huge when you get older under these integrated shield plans.
Right. Okay. So for Paul, would your tips also be revolving around healthcare, or would it be on your portfolio?
Yeah, I think healthcare is very important first, because even if you have a huge portfolio without any insurance coverage, then your whole portfolio will just disappear, assuming you need regular treatment. Yeah, so of course we cover healthcare first, and then we look at the investment portion. Can't stress this enough, not only because the CPF Life talk, but CPF Life really is the bedrock. 65 onwards, I say that's where life starts, because I get paid for life. Yeah, but before that, 55 years old first, I currently have I'm currently doing dollar cost averaging into several portfolios, different portfolios, and some robo-advisors. So at 55 years old, the plan is to draw down from one of these robo-advisors. That would be one part. The second part, I think I mentioned earlier on, was about the interest generated from the excess SA and OA monies that did not flow into the RA when I turned 55. That will not flow into the RA when I turn 55. Then I also have a private annuity that starts from 55, but it just pays for 10 years. The idea is to cover that gap between 55 to 65. And then another annuity that starts at 62, because this annuity cannot start at 55, so no choice. Starts at 62 but pays out for 15 years to 77. And then of course there's the SRAs that we mentioned, pays out at 62 also. And finally 65 is where the bulk of the money comes in. Yeah.
Right. So you have already charted everything out clearly, and that's why you're saying at 65 your life start, and you're just waiting to collect money.
Yes, correct. I mean, of course, if any good thing happens before that, then of course I can start life earlier.
Yeah, but your portfolio grew over time, like you layer it on over time?
Yes, definitely it's a layer on, but it's with deliberate planning. So I actually have an Excel sheet.
Oh.
Yeah, so at 55, this kicks in, and then what happens a few years down the road, how much am I getting each year? I'm 55, 56, 57, all the way until 80 something, assuming I live until then. Yeah.
Yeah, this reminds me of Excel for tracking your expenses, because if you start to track your expenses, then you start to be more mindful about what you're spending, and then you can actually trim things that are not so essential, like differentiating between your needs and wants. So what I'm also learning from Paul is, having an Excel spreadsheet and really looking at the different juncture and when you get a payout, when is your gap, is useful, using data as well to just look at how you're going to plan your retirement game plan. So that's something that online audience can consider. Yeah, so when we talk about healthcare needs, so we will also look at this where if you do a top up to your MediSave account, you can also earn tax relief of up to 16,000 for yourself and your loved ones. Okay, but you need to be mindful that earlier we talked about cash top up to your CPF, SA or your RA. So the computation of tax relief here would include those top ups that are made there. So if you already top up 8,000 to your special account, and you in the same year you top up another 8,000 to your MediSave account, both is for your own account. So in that year you will only be able to receive tax relief of $8,000. Okay, and Sally mentioned about integrated shield plans in that sense. So if you have integrated shield plan, you effectively already have MediShield Life, so you don't have to worry that you are actually double paying your premiums in that sense, right? And think about what is the coverage that you need, whether you intend to stay in B2C ward in a public hospital or you're actually looking at a private hospitals. So generally, MediShield Life can cover a vast majority of the bills incurred in these B2C wards. And the amount of MediSave that you can use to pay, like what Sally has already highlighted, is subject to the additional withdrawal limit. Any excess must be paid in cash. Over time, your premiums will increase. So this is something that you need to consider, whether a few years down the road, will you still want to pay this amount of premium, or would you want to consider downgrading if you don't see, like Jolene, don't think that you'll be staying at the A1 ward, for example. So these are some things for you to consider. The takeaway point is really what is the coverage that you need, and what is the time of healthcare needs that you want to receive. Yeah. Okay, so I think we do a time check, and I think we have had a good time so far. Maybe we can take a look at the questions that our participants have been sending in. And so we may not be able to take all the questions because I'm seeing that there's just quite a lot of questions coming in. So we seek your understanding if we are not able to take all the questions. Yeah. All right. So maybe for a start, I think we can pull out the question that actually both Xiaolin and Paul can take. So I'll read out the question first. Yeah. So what is your take on someone who is in their late 20s, keen to top up CPF voluntarily, but worry that the CPF withdrawal age will be extended by the time of his or her retirement? Yeah. So maybe, Lynn, would you like to take this question first?
Right. So I think if you are in your 20s, you should really make your, your top up, right? Because just now we spoke about, the earlier you do your top up, you have a long runway to enjoy the benefits of compounding interest. So yeah, just do your top up. Okay. The worrying about the change in the CPF withdrawal age. Actually, Joanne, we have never changed the CPF withdrawal rate, right? It has always been at age 55, right?
Yep.
Right.
Paul, how about you?
I think maybe the person who posed this question, I'm thinking from the person's point of view. He or she may want to use the cash for investment purposes, or maybe put the cash somewhere more liquid. So probably that's why this question. But so to strike a balance, maybe put some into CPF voluntarily, and then some you can use for investment outside CPF, I think. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Maybe we move on to the next question. So this question I'll pose to Xiaolin. If our special account has already met the full retirement sum, the FRS, when we are in our mid-30s or 40s, is there any other ways that members or their family members can voluntarily top up to their SA so that it meets their enhanced retirement sum?
Right. So if you have met your full retirement sum and you continue to work, you don't have to worry. The contribution could still be made into your special account, right?
Yes.
And if you are not working, then you could actually consider making a voluntary contribution into the 3 accounts. As long as your mandatory contribution has not exceeded the CPF annual limit of 37,740.
Okay, so if you are still working, you don't have to worry because your mandatory contribution from your employment will still be credited to your CPF account.
That's right.
Okay, and if you are not working,
You
then
also don't have to worry
Yes.
because you could actually make a voluntary contribution to the 3 accounts. And it's the same limit that we apply to both the mandatory contribution from working and the voluntary contribution.
Okay,
which
and
is,
subject to the same limit.
That's right, which is
37,740.
37740. Yes,
Yes.
that's right.
Okay. Okay, so the next question, maybe Paul can take it first. Given the current economic climate, what is your take on investing our monies in the private market versus topping up our CPF? How about investing our CPF monies versus keeping them in our OA and SA to earn the base interest?
Okay, so I think now if we are familiar with the market, I think it's now bad. This year has been rather bad. But I think investing outside the CPF in general, or investing in general, really is all about how much risk you can take. So if you find that I rather park my money in a CPF, whether it's SA or OA, assuming it's SA, so we say it's a guaranteed 4%, although a lot of people say, oh, it may change anytime, but I think I was just looking at it for the past 20 years or so, it has not been changed. And of course, there's a lot of technical, legal terms behind it. But yeah, so I think it's more stable. Maybe if you don't like the word guarantee, I think it's more stable if you want to choose something that it's, if you cannot stomach so much risk. So CPF will be for you. But if you feel that you can earn more than what you can get if you, instead of putting the CPF, then maybe the private market is for you. So I think that's the first part about investing in the private market versus topping up CPF. So next part about investing our CPF monies, that means money that is already in the CPF versus keeping them, that means not doing anything, just leaving it in the ONSA. I think also it's about risk taking. So if you leave it inside, you earn the 2.5 and the 4% respectively, OA and SA. If you choose to use the OA monies, I think also there is a list of certain things that you can invest in only. So you cannot use it, for example, to buy US stocks, I think. Yeah. Singapore stocks definitely can, but then again, stocks are something volatile. They are volatile. So maybe at the time when you really wish to withdraw and the market is down, definitely, or maybe not definitely, but very probably you would have been better off just leaving it in the CPF, OA or SA. Yeah.
Right. So Lynn, anything to add on?
Yeah, so I think Paul spoke quite a bit about your risk appetite. So everyone would have a different risk appetite. So when it comes to investment, I think it really depends on your risk appetite. The other element to consider actually is your investment horizon, right? If you are relatively young, you have a longer investment horizon, you could probably consider a wider range of assets class to invest in, right? But if you are nearing your retirement age, yeah, then you have actually a shorter investment horizon. Then you probably want to put your monies into something that is more stable and safe.
Right. Okay. So point taken that it looks at your risk appetite as well as consider the horizon that you have. So these are all factors that you need to consider Yes, and Paul is right. So under the CPF investment scheme, there are some list of schemes that you can actually invest in, and the information can also be found in our CPF website. So the next question is on CPF Life.
Oh.
Yeah,
Your
and
favorite?
yeah, I'm going to appoint it to Sotlin. Yes. So on CPF Life, the question is: I noticed that the life payout are given in a range. So typically from a certain amount to a certain amount. So are these payout amounts guaranteed because it's in a range? And what's the chances of the payment amounts changing?
Okay. While the payments and the payouts, they are not guaranteed, but they are designed to be very, very stable. Okay. So CPF Life, I think this year it's probably more than 10 years already, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
we have never, I think, revised the payout downwards, right? Because it is designed to be very, very stable. And why that is so? That's because the monies in CPF Life is actually invested in the special Singapore government bonds that provides a stable returns, right? So the payout will only change if your returns are unstable. Okay. The other reason that could contribute to a change in the payout is the change in mortality rates, right? But we do review our assumptions regularly on CPF Life, so you won't see a sudden drastic change, in the mortality rates that would then cause a sharp drop in your monthly.
Okay.
Yeah, so the CPF Life monthly payouts are really stable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
While not guaranteed.
I understand that so I hear you that for 10 plus years we have not, adjusted it, and if it's been adjusted, I believe there will be advanced communication.
That's right.
And
That's right.
it wouldn't be something that happened overnight, right?
Yes, it won't happen overnight, and you would not actually see a sudden drastic change,
right.
in your payouts, right? Because we do review the payouts on an annual basis. So any change, if any, right, will
yes.
be a very gradual one.
Okay, so generally it will be reviewed regularly, for the past several years since the life scheme is out or implemented, it has not been changed, the payout. So it's very stable.
We have never adjusted downwards. We may have adjusted upwards.
That's good news.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, Ken. Our next question touches on Medisave, healthcare. So this question is, I understand there is a cap on Medisave, from which further mandatory contribution will spill over to SA or MA. Yeah, so if you, I guess so, if you meet the basic healthcare sum BHS, excess will actually flow to your SA or OA. So does SA have such a limit too, where further mandatory contributions spill over to your OAs with spillover effect?
Yeah, so I think the short answer is no, right? I think all employment contributions, the mandatory contributions, will continue to be allocated to your special account, right? And even if you have met your FRS, right? So the contributions could still come in, and you could still enjoy the 4% interest paid to the special account.
Okay, so to be clear, the prevailing full retirement sum that we have is the limit for which you can do your cash top-up.
That's right.
But if you still continue to work, your mandatory contributions can still be credited. It doesn't spill over to your OA.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But there is a cap for your MA, and if it exceeds, then it will spill over to your special account. And that's because the whole intent is actually to build up your retirement savings, right?
Precisely.
So there's no cap in your SA in that sense, and eventually your SA monies will go over to your retirement account to form your retirement savings.
When you reach 55.
Yes.
Actually, that's one of the so-called perks of reaching FRS also, I think, in the SA. Yeah, so because I suddenly thought of this, so I just chime in a bit. So for me, my MA money overflows to the SA, but since my SA is already at full retirement sum, so that money now goes into OA. So now my OA is actually getting a higher allocation rate apart from the usual allocation into the 3 different accounts. So yeah, that's one beauty of, if I can use that word, having money, FRS in your special account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that BHS generally is adjusted every year. So every year you will have a slight increase. There's
That's right.
space to do top up as well. And I know of members who will, at the start of the year, already do their own cash top up so that they meet the new basic healthcare sum.
That's right.
So that subsequent contributions that come in will actually flow over to their special account.
I do that.
Yeah, and it helps to really grow your retirement savings at a faster rate because your special account is actually earning a higher interest compared to your ordinary account.
So
in
the
that sense.
MediSave also earns 4%. So
Yes.
any cash top up that you make to your MediSave account would similarly earn the 4% interest.
And it gets tax relief also, right? Does it to
Tax
contribute
relief.
to your MA? It does also, right?
When you contribute to your special or retirement account, you do get, when you contribute to your MA just now that we see, the computation of the tax relief will also factor in whether you have already contributed your SA or your RA. So the max is 16,000.
Okay.
8,000
8
for
plus
yourself
8, yeah,
and
8
another,
plus
8 plus
okay.
8 in that sense, easier to
Okay.
remember. Okay, the next question is on housing. I am in the midst of doing a big budget purchase, which is a resale HDB, but I still want to make sure that I still have enough money. When should I do the transfer to a special account from ordinary account in order to earn the compound interest? So this is about HDB housing purchase. It's a resale flat, and I guess this member wants to make sure that he has sufficient funds for it, and asking about the timing to which he should do transfer to SA from OA. Right. I guess we can interpret it from the angle that if the money is in your ordinary account, maybe he doesn't want to use that much of the OA to form part of, to finance the resale HDB in that sense, because he wanted to keep it in his special account to earn the interest. Yeah. Any takes on this question?
Yeah, I thought perhaps it's not so much on the timing, but maybe this member would like to review his needs
Save
and
more.
prioritize his needs whether it is he sees the OA money more for his housing purchase or is it for his retirement. Because I think we mentioned just now, right? The more you use for housing, then
Yes.
the less you'll have for your retirement. Right.
Yes. Anything that Paul might want to add on to this question?
I'm assuming from the person's point of view that he or she does not want to use cash to pay, so it's only a choice of either using OA to pay the resale HDB or to transfer it to SA. But assuming I'm wrong, then you may want to look at the cash option. Yes, yeah.
I also wonder if it is also about whether the dilemma is living more in OA for your HDB purchase or living less there and then transfer it to SA to earn higher interest.
I think this one then, I think the long story short is really depends on the individual situation. Yeah, if the resale HDB, because it's a place where you need to stay in, then I think that will be the priority instead of the SA. So you need the house, you need to stay in a place, so you need to fund the place. So I think it makes sense to leave it in the OA, because SA, even though we say start early to earn the compound interest, but you can always do it at a later time when you are more comfortable, when you're feeling more. Less commitments, less financial commitments elsewhere, then you can think about the SA.
Okay, so that would be your approach, to go with cash first and subsequently transfer it to SA if you need to.
Yep.
Okay, we have a few more questions. Let's look at the next one. So for Xiao-Ling, is there a minimum age to top up children's CPF account?
I believe the answer is no. There's no minimum age where you could top up your child's CPF account. but there is actually no tax relief
Yeah.
given to the parent when he or she tops up the children's account.
Yes.
Yeah, you get a tax relief when you top up
For
your own
yourself.
account and also for your parents, right? But not for your children.
Yeah. Okay, your spouse as well.
Yes, for your spouse
Yeah,
as well.
I think your parents-in-law. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So, but not for your children.
Yeah, not for the
Yes.
children.
And actually now, all children actually has a CPF account.
That's
when
right.
They're born in that sense
Yes,
because they
yes.
have the MediSave grant for the
Newborns,
newborn.
yes.
So all children, once they're born, the government will credit the MediSave grant for newborn, and they will actually have a CPF account. And you can just do a top up for them. There is no age limit in that sense. And as parents, you can also view your child's CPF statement of account using your own SingPass. Yeah. So Paul, you have kids as well.
Yes, yes.
So
Act-
anything to add on?
Yeah, if I could, I would top up their CPF accounts if I could. Unfortunately, I don't have that much liquid cash at the moment. But I did try. I did use the system, so I did try to top up my firstborn with a few $100s just to see how the whole thing works. And then somewhere I read actually that if you just give your kid, I think the magic amount is 60,000 or 65,000, I cannot remember. By the time they're 65, assuming the CPF rates don't change at 4%, we keep it conservative at 4%, then by the time they're 65, they're actually a millionaire. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I say if I can, I would lah. So even if I'm gone, hey, you're a millionaire already. Yeah, I'm gone, but you're a billionaire. Something like that.
Yeah, and that's because children, they really have the longest runway. If you are really topping up for your child, say for example when they are born or when they are an infant, you are looking at 50, 60 years. And just now in the example that we look at, $50 per month after 20 years is already 18,000. So much of interest have accumulated. It's a snowballing effect in that sense. Yeah. So I think the example that you have shared, I've also read about it. There have also been discussions on whether parents should top up their children's CPF in, all three accounts, or in their MediSave account, or in their special account. Yeah. So on this, Sotlin, do you have any advice, or it's still up to individual circumstances?
Right. I think it's very much dependent on individual circumstances. Right. For me, I will top up a certain amount. I mean, if I have a child, I'll top up a certain amount to the MediSave account because the interest that you earn, right, from the MediSave account could actually use to pay your medical insurance premiums.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So in a way, you can see that you actually preserve your capital, the top up amount, because actually the interest alone will be sufficient to pay for the insurance premiums annually.
Right. So if that is the intent, then perhaps you would want to top up your MediSave account.
That's right.
It's the same interest as a special account. But if your end in mind is really to help to build your child's retirement savings, then you should actually put it into your special account.
Like what Paul mentioned just now, if you want to make your child a millionaire, right, then you could consider actually topping up to the special account first, right? Then of course, if you top up to the 3 accounts, then the child has the freedom in future to actually use the money, right? We spoke about using OA for housing. That's right.
Grow up. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. So instead of giving them money to buy a flat, you're effectively putting it into their CPF ordinary account so that it grow at a faster rate and they can use that to buy their housing.
Yeah.
Actually, alternatively, because I also again suddenly thought of it, because once you can create a CDA with the bank, any of the 3 banks, child development account, and it earns, I think, not very high interest, but also not very low. I think 2% around that range. So what happens is, if you don't look at so far at when your child turns 65 or what, you're just looking at the near future, this CDA can be used to pay their medical fees, some of their school bills. So for me, my plan also when I read about this was, I did not use the CDA to pay for my child's school fees. Of course, when infant care, that's a different story. Infant care is really expensive, so no choice. But subsequently, when my elder one is in now K1, I'm actually using another account to fund for school fees while keeping the CDA untouched. Because this CDA actually, once the child reaches a certain age, I think it becomes the EduSave account. And then after that, subsequently, the remaining amount goes into their OA eventually anyway. So yeah, so instead of just putting into the OA or SA, you can just look at this option also, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
So I
In a
think
sense, there's a bit
yes.
more
Flexibility.
flexibility.
yes,
Right.
yes. So I totally understand where you're coming from, because there's just so many options and it really depends on what you want
That's right.
at the end of the day, and which are then the options that you will actually want to take. And along the way, you may review your financial plan and you may take a different decisions. Yeah, so that's something for our online audience to consider as well. Okay, Paul, we have the next question for you. I'm considering to transfer from my ordinary account to my special account. However, I may need the ordinary account to fund housing loan in the near future. So what are your views on this? So it's a bit of dilemma. Should I do, OA transfer to SA, or should I actually keep it so that I can fund my housing loan?
Okay, so I think this question is slightly similar to the previous one, but maybe I'll just add on some points. Also because I talked about using OA to fund my own house. But before I got my own house, I actually, if you heard me just now, I actually transferred to my wife's SA. So it was a bit by bit thing because I was also unsure like you. So I did it a little bit at a time, an amount that I'm comfortable with. Until the point where you really need to collect your keys, that's when you really have to sit down and take out the calculator and really calculate.
Your Excel.
Yeah, another separate Excel sheet probably. Yeah, because you have to first consider the down payment. Of course, if you have cash, you can use cash, I think, right? Yeah, but for me, me and my wife, we use our OA for the down payment. And we also kept, since 2018, I think there's this option, and we were, I think, the first or second batch to exercise this option of keeping 20K in the OA as sort of a buffer to pay the monthly installment for the house. And the rest of it, like I said, just close eye, press button, transfer. Yeah, assuming I'm still working lah, and there's money flowing to the OA to pay for the house. So the buffer there, I think it's a good move. It didn't totally wipe out the OA. Yeah, so maybe for a start to answer this question, yeah, transfer bit by bit first. Because really clicking the button is, I hesitated. Yeah, it's a 5-digit amount suddenly from OA to SA when you just transfer like that. So there's a hesitation there. But before that, I got used to it by transferring 3 digits lah. 3 digits, bit by bit, bit by bit. Then after that, time to get the keys. Okay, time to get serious. Okay, yeah. So really, you have to sit down with your partner, your spouse, assuming married, of course, and work the sums out. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thanks for that. Let's look at the next question. Lin, how is voluntary refund to OA different from refund to OA upon sale of property? Yeah, so refunding to OA, but the difference is one scenario is you do it voluntarily before you even sell the property, another is upon sale of property. And how does it help in financial planning?
Right, so I think the voluntary housing refund helps for people who don't intend to sell their property. So you don't have to sell your property, but you have some spare cash and you want to earn the CPF interest rate of 2.5%, then it makes sense to actually do a voluntary housing refund because it earns a stable 2.5% returns, right? But if you have that spare cash and you could, have a better returns through other investment, then yeah, you may want to consider that route instead of putting it as a voluntary housing refund. So the main difference is actually the sale of property, right? You actually have to sell your property, right,
Yes.
before the money goes into your CPF ordinary account. Whereas this voluntary housing refund that we spoke about is really about when you have that spare cash, right, and you want to, in a way, pay back into your own ordinary account for the amount that you have earlier withdrawn for your housing purchases.
Okay, so one key difference would be event triggered lah. So if
That's
you
right.
sell the property, then yes, you have to refund the full principal amount plus the accrued interest. But voluntary housing refunds, you can refund any amount. But
That's
up
right,
to
you
the
can
max
refund
of
any
the principal
amount.
plus
Right.
the accrued interest.
Right.
Okay, and in terms of helping in financial planning, I guess it will also depend on how long is the horizon you have in selling your flat, and whether you have spare cash that you want
That's
to put
right.
it in.
Right.
Because from what I'm hearing, if you have spare cash, there's also different options that you can activate in that sense.
True, true.
Right.
Yeah. So if you do put into OA, then the returns will be the 2.5% interest.
Right, okay. And voluntary housing refund is also popular for those who have already met their full retirement sum because they cannot
Right.
pump cash into their SA anymore. So that's one way for them to top up. Okay. Yes.
Can I also just add, again, if
Sure.
my memory doesn't fail me, this for above 55 really, I think. So how to hit the ERS, right, I think. No, wait, let me think about it.
Voluntary refund can be done at any point in time,
Oh, anytime.
need not be at age 55.
Okay.
Right.
I remember what to say. Yeah, we cannot contribute any more to our SA above 55, right?
Yes, because you would have your retirement account in that sense, is it?
But we can still do this voluntary refund to OA after 55, right? So in that case, OA still earns 2.5%. I think it's better than bank interest rate. Yeah, so you can treat like a bank interest bank because you can still withdraw from OA or SA first then OA, because you have already set aside your FRS and it's now parked in the RA. So yeah, I'll treat it like a bank account. I got money, I put inside the OA, voluntary refund to OA instead of putting in the bank. Then if I need, I just draw out from the OA again.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So to summarize, like what Seok mentioned, voluntary housing refund, we don't look at the age. Before 55, after 55, but of course the condition is you must have bought a property using your CPF savings. That's how we compute the principal amount and the accrued interest. And but for cash top up that we have been talking a fair bit earlier on, if you're below 55, then your retirement sum topping up goes into your special account. If you're above 55 and above, then it goes into your retirement account. All right. Okay, the next question, I think both of you can actually take it. What are your views of using lump sum CPF monies to pay off the full housing loan if it's sufficient, all right? And if it is about 20 years loan duration left. Yeah, so would you advocate using, a lump sum of CPF monies to pay off, assuming you have sufficient in your CPF account to pay off everything? Yeah.
Right. So I think again, it's about, if you use more CPF, you will have less for your retirement, right? This CPF monies, of course, we are talking about the ordinary account now, earning a 2.5% interest. So I think it also depends on, what's the mortgage rate that you are currently paying, right? So these are probably some of the things that you want to consider before you decide whether you want to use a lump sum to pay your, to make, you want to use this lump sum amount to pay for your housing loan.
Okay, so to expand a little of what you were saying, so I hear you saying that one consideration is to look at what is the interest that you're already paying for your housing mortgage, right?
Right.
And to see whether, if that is actually higher, whether you should then actually do a lump sum payout. Payment of your full housing loan, or you want to just pay it over the remaining 20
that's right.
years.
Because if your mortgage rate is higher than 2.5%, then I think it makes sense to actually pay down your mortgage amount. If not, you'll be paying quite a high interest, right, on your mortgage amount.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, I think you have to be conscious that the more you withdraw, from your CPF account to pay for your housing loan, it just means that you have less for your retirement later on.
Okay, so let me expand a little. In your opinion, does it matter if it is, let's say, mid-30s or nearing retirement? Is there other consideration? Because I hear you saying that when you wipe out your CPF OA to pay the full housing loan, that actually has a trade-off to your retirement adequacy in that sense. So should we also factor in the age, like whether we are reaching 55 or we have, we are younger at 30, 40s? Does it matter?
Yeah, I suppose if you are younger, then again you have a longer runway, for you to do your accumulation.
And you may be still working.
That's right.
And, right.
That's right.
Contributing your CPF. Okay. Paul, anything to add on?
Yeah, I think I agree with her about the opportunity cost. So you really have to wait to see whether you're actually, gaining or losing, so to speak. That's the mortgage rate interest. Also, I think comfort level, because I have friends who have already paid up their house. Yeah, so basically everything is gone. So now they are actively building up their CPF monies instead. So theirs is the other way first. Payoff probably also comes from peace of mind. Having that, okay, I have no more debt on my house. Yeah, but then I think there's this thing called good debt also. So I think it's basically what Sok Lin just mentioned. You are in debt, yes, but then you are gaining from that debt because you are earning 2.5 here, but you are paying maybe 1 point something over there. Of course, now the interest rate environment is different, so it really depends also.
Right. Okay. Thanks for adding that on. We are mindful of time, and maybe we can take the third last question. All right. And Paul, I'd like to ask, what are your considerations to buy private annuity plans instead of putting in CPF to earn the interest?
Okay. Short answer: nothing can beat CPF Life as an annuity. Really, nothing. For the value, if you want to put it that way, dollar to dollar comparison, really CPF Life is unmatchable. Number one, because CPF Life is a non-profit organization, they don't survive to, it's not like a business. Right? Insurance companies, all these are businesses. They ultimately have to earn a profit from you. And also, CPF Life is a large pool, so the what do you call it, the risk pooling is huge as compared to from a particular company. So yeah, long story short, I think nothing can beat CPF Life. So we should settle our FRS first, or rather CPF Life first. Then we can take a look at other private annuity plans, definitely, yes, to supplement your CPF Life. So yeah, I think the order has to be correct. That's for me. That's for me.
All right. And anything to add on for Sok Lin on CPF Life?
No, fully agree with what Paul has just shared.
Okay, great. We move on to the next question. If I wish to do a top up to my own SA or my parents' RA, in this case, parents are age 5 and above, is there a minimum amount? Okay, because the example we cited was 50, so is there a minimum amount?
Okay.
And should this be done at the start of a year? Again, timing,
Right. So there is no minimum amount, right? Actually, to check what is the amount that you could top up, you could actually log into our CPF website and refer to the retirement dashboard to check on how much you can top up. Right. So that's for the first question. And the second question, should this be done at the start of the year? Of course, right? We have said this many times. You should top up
as
as early as possible.
Yeah.
So topping up at the start of the year will allow you to earn, the interest for the full year. Yes.
Right.
So yeah, do top up at the start of the year.
Okay, so do top up, and if you can do top up early at the start of the year, that's the message. Okay, and all right, we move on to the last question. So any advice for students in their 20s who have been working part-time while still studying full-time in university and want to go into investing but are clueless about it? So this member have about 15,000 in their CPF, in his or her CPF now. So the question is, what's the best step we could take to really kickstart our CPF? Wonderful question. Would you like to take it first?
Yeah, sure. I think it's great that this person has already 15K in the CPF.
Yes.
I can relate to him or her because when I was studying full-time also, I was doing part-time, working part-time also. But I had no idea how to invest. That's the difference. For me, I think I would not do anything yet because, of course, even though we mentioned many times tonight that we start early to let the compound interest take effect. But for me, I would not do anything yet because I'm still in my early 20s and I may need this OA money to purchase a house. I would assume in the 20s, mid-20s. So if you're attached, you're going to get married, looking to get married soon, 30s probably, then and you are cash strapped, most probably you need to take from your OA to fund for this house. So I would not do anything yet. until I'm really certain. And when I say don't do anything, meaning transfer from OA to SA. Yeah, so I will wait and see for now. After all, it's still relatively stable inside there, 2.5%. I'm not losing anything. But I would not put it in investments. I will not take it out and put in investments either, because there's, like I say, it's volatile. You may lose the money, and your capital is not really huge to begin with in the So I'll just leave things be for now.
Right. So for me, if I have some spare cash, right, maybe your ang pao money or some savings from your pocket money, I will do a cash top up.
As in top up using your ang pao.
Yes,
money.
that's right.
Okay,
right. 20s, I think people still give you ang pao.
Yes. I think
still
so.
eligible to receive ang pao, right? Birthday ang pao, Chinese New Year ang pao, right? I will use it. Maybe not all of it, right? You want to save some, for your other needs, right? But part of it, I thought I will use it to actually top up my account, right? So the question is, should I do a MediSave top up, right, or a top up to my special account? So I think we went through that a bit, right? Whether you want to top up your MediSave so that you could use the interest to pay for your insurance premium, or you could actually top up into your special account, right?
So to kickstart your CPF, you can even use pocket monies, birthday ang pao, New Year ang pao, and top it up into your CPF.
That's right.
Okay, interesting. All right, so I think we have come to the end of the webinar. So so I think it has been a very fruitful session. I think it's useful that we have been talking a fair bit about how we can make use of CPF to optimize our savings. We talk about, taking into account the horizon, the different options. And I'm sure now our online audience has a lot to think about. Yeah, so we may not be able to answer all the questions, but if you do have questions, and especially if they are customized, to your needs, what you can do is you can also write to us, right? My colleague will also be putting in the address that you can write to us, and that is something that you can also do if, let's say, you have a personalized question that you would like us to address. Yeah. So before we go off, I'd like to just share, you can connect with us and sign up or onboard our social media platforms. So we are found in major social media platforms, including TikTok as well. And in November, we will be having a Ready for Life Digital Festival, where we have curated a lineup of online webinars and workshops that can help you to discover your passions and start your way through planning for a purposeful retirement. So our pre-registration has started, so you can scan the QR code or click on the link in the chat box to actually register for it. So save the date and join us on 12 and 13 November. We hope to see you there. Okay, next what we'll have is, actually Paul is also our CPF volunteer, so we hope that today, after you have gone through the webinar and you have learned some tips and info about CPF, do help us, pay it forward by sharing with, your family and friends about CPF and about the CPF facts that you have learned about. You can join us as a CPF volunteer by scanning the QR code, right, to join us, and you'll be onboarded onto our CPF volunteering mobile app, so you can do good and learn about CPF at the same time. Last but not least, we would love to have your feedback, so that we can know what went well and what can be improved as we strive to make each and every webinar a better one. So do scan the QR code again, and as well as the link in the chat box, and we hope you can send in your feedback before you go off. Yeah. So I also want to thank, Sok Lin and Paul for very candid and active discussions. Thank you so much for taking time to join us and for sharing. So thank you to our audience for staying on with us. Thank you, everyone. This is the end of the webinar. Have a good rest and good night.
Good night.